People use Jesmonite to create so many different finishes. Something that's really popular at the moment is Terrazzo. Terrazzo is where you're putting into your wet mix some aggregate. Now, you could add all sorts of different things, but one of the brilliant things with Jesmonite is you can add itself to itself. So in order to make some chips, to give you a finish like this, or like this, all you need to do is brush out your chosen colours. Now, as you can see, the range of colours is huge, so depending on what you're trying to achieve, depends on what you're going to brush out. But today, I'm just using the same colours that we've got in the starter kit. So I've brushed out some reds and some blues. Simplest thing is, I'm going to break them up. Now at this stage, you can decide how big you want your sections to be. You may want them as tiny crumbs, you may want them a centimetre across. However you want that visual to be, and the distribution of them in your mould is how you need to play with it at this stage. So I'm going to go for quite large chips just to demonstrate what we're doing. So I'm just breaking them up. On a huge scale, get them in a bucket with a rolling pin and smash them up. A bit like making cheesecake base. Similarly, I'm going to break some of the blue into small pieces. Now because they've been brushed out onto plastic, you've got one really smooth shiny side, and then you've got the slightly duller rough side. Now I'm going into the little coaster mould again. I'm going to try and place these because I'm just, I've got time to do it carefully. I'm going to try and place these shiny side down onto the silicone. Now I can decide where to distribute them. I might want it to look really random. I might want it to be really quite specific. You can cluster them in one direction. You can change the shape and the orientation of them. However you want to do it, it's really simple. Now the next thing you're going to do is simply pour the same mix that you've made in a standard block colour against the back of this. Now don't panic, some of them might wriggle off, they might move, but the randomness and the variety is what gives it its character. Once that's gone off and you demould, you may be hugely disappointed that you can't see any chips at all. This is because the actual background mix has just moved them around and they're hiding just under the surface. So at that point, you get yourself some sandpaper. I'd start with the finer sandpapers, maybe 400 grit. Wet and dry is a good idea because it's polishing as you sand, and gradually you will reveal what you've got hiding underneath. So, you break up your chips, you decide on their shape, their size, their orientation, and their colour, scatter them how you wish, and then pour them in. Now there is another way of doing this. If you want those chips distributed through your whole mix, perhaps you're going to make a bowl or a vase, then break them up and stir them into your wet mix so that you've got them distributed through that wet mix. Then as you pour that solid shape, you should have them distributed throughout the piece. Because they're lightweight, they won't sink as adding gravel or pebbles or stone or flakes of metal. They won't sink as much. So distribute them in whatever size and shape you want, and you can do it as a single pour too.